Someone's here on behalf of the union?
Yes, Mel Cabal is speaking in place of Kenny. Their stuff? Okay, I'll give it to her.
No, she doesn't want to 3 minutes before that.
She does not.
Welcome to the District School Board of Pasco County School Board meeting. Please take a moment now to silence your cell phones. Our vision is that all our students achieve success in college, career, and life. The thought for the day is from Mrs. Armstrong.
All right, and this is from Thomas Jefferson. And basically what it's saying, person with the right mental attitude can accomplish anything. Person with the wrong mental attitude will not be able to accomplish anything.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All of our board members are present tonight, as is our school board attorney and our superintendent. It is now time for a moment of silence, and while you are reflecting, we're going to ask you to please keep in mind the family of Laura Leidick, physical therapist assistant from Cody River Elementary School. Please, a moment of silence. Thank you. Board members, you've been given a copy of the minutes from the meeting of October 4th. And I have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lukehart, seconded by Mrs. Armstrong. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The minutes have been approved. It is now time for a public hearing. This is the 2016-2017 Student Progression Plan, the second reading. And Attorney Alfonso, would you like to set the stage for our public comment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the opportunity for individuals to come forward and speak to matters that are posted on the board's agenda or other matters of relevance to the operation of schools. Anyone who wishes to speak at this time should have already filled out a speaker's input form that you can see the yellow document. If you've already gotten one that's been completed and submitted, that's great. If you are planning to speak tonight and haven't done one, please do that right away. I am the timekeeper, so each speaker who wishes to speak will have 3 minutes. I don't know how many cards we've already received, but in the unlikely chance that we get really too many cards to fill the time allotted, which is 1 hour, then the board chair has the ability to reduce the speaker's time to 2 minutes to give everybody a chance to speak. I ask you all to make certain that you are sensitive to time. Please be ready to make your comments. Please stop when you hear sounds coming from the timer. And other than that, be advised that generally board members do not respond to comments that are made during public comment or questions. But if it's a matter that they feel appropriate, they will either follow up individually after the meeting or ask the superintendent or his staff to do so. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. I have looked through the stack of yellow cards, and because this public comment portion is simply for the public hearing on the student progression plan, I don't see any comment cards. You will have another opportunity later to comment on the other things. But is there anybody here that wishes to speak specifically to the student progression plan? All right, I see none. At this time, do we have a motion from the board to accept the 2016-2017 Student Progression Plan second reading?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Armstrong, seconded by Mrs. Crumbly. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The second reading of the 2016-2017 Student Progression Plan has been approved, and our public comment hearing is now closed. At this time, we have special presentations. Mrs. Cobb.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, school board members, Attorney Alfonso, Superintendent. We have one recognition, and this is the Clerk and Comptroller's Constitution Essay Awards presentation. For the last 3 years, the Clerk and Comptroller, Paula O'Neill, has invited all Pasco 5th graders to participate in the annual Constitution Essay Contest. So it is my pleasure this evening to welcome and invite up to the podium Dr. Paula O'Neill to recognize those winners.
Thank you. Welcome, Dr. O'Neill. We're glad to have you.
Thank you very much. It's such an honor to have this competition. This year we received 29 entries from 10 different schools across Pasco County. We had the same judges this year: Tom Jackson, author Gail Dietrich, and Chief Deputy Clerk and former teacher Barb Rulison. So we're excited about this. We appreciate this. It's in honor of Constitution Day, September 16th of this year, and every year in September. And so we appreciate the cooperation of the students and the teachers of your school district. Thank you. Massacre Faliki of Odessa Elementary School. And she was 3rd place. We have our 2nd and 1st place winners here. 2nd place winner is Grace Garicio of Longleaf Elementary School. She's here today with her mother, Stephanie, her father, Joe, her grandmother, Sally, her uncle, Brian, her aunt, Ellen, and her friends, Nick, Amy, and Mia. And we'd also like to recognize her principal, Ms. Heptig, and her teacher, Mrs. Wainwright, who are here. If they could come forward, we could present her with her trophy. opportunity to shake hands with the school board members. Thank you so much, Grace. We appreciate your entry. You can go ahead and have a seat when we're finished. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's your certificate and your ribbon. Thank you. So our first place winner, the highest distinction, is awarded to Jessica Carver of Lake Myrtle Elementary School. She's here today with her mother, Anna. We would also like to recognize her principal, Megan Hermanson, and her teacher, Miss Monroe. Her essay stood out among the entries. And thank you, Jessica, for your hard work. We look forward to giving you a tour of the courthouse and a day with us. Thank you to the judging panel and to Superintendent Browning for all your help with this. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Dr. O'Neill and our award winners would like to take a moment now of recess and go out and have your pictures taken. So if you would go out into the anteroom there, we'll be taking some pictures.
Parents are here. This is your feed, right? Because I just checked on Facebook. So this is what's going to show. And so we're loving this.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
when
our
I come
kids
this
aren't
way,
in here.
it barely touches your head, not a lot. A lot of people want to come to these things, but they just can't, so this gives them the opportunity to see what's going on.
It doesn't matter. It's all right.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's always nice to get photos of our distinguished guests and honorees. It's now ready to renew our agenda here. The next thing on the agenda is the opportunity for people to speak on any issue that comes before the board. The attorney has already told you the ground rules. I have some yellow cards with me. If anyone else decides they would like to speak, see the board secretary and fill out a yellow card. And I'll just take these in the order in which I received them. Christine Stahl is our first speaker.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Christine Stahl. I live at 2920 Meadowwood Drive, Newport Richey. I've been at the last 3 school board meetings and have shared with you a little about myself, about my children, my family, and this incredible community that we live in. However, I wouldn't be here sharing all of this if it were not for the potential rezoning that our community is facing currently. If nothing else, this issue has forced me to take a look at the education of my children from a different lens, forcing me to take a stance and give them a voice. What I've seen mostly with this whole situation is an incredible community that's been divided. The planning department has stated that their process is transparent. However, I would have to respectfully disagree. This is not the fair and balanced process that we were promised. This process where we have been told as a community that lines have not been drawn, there is no map. Repeatedly, we have been told that. Yet the planning department did discuss lines with a committee member prior to the boundary committee meetings. This committee person now has an idea of what might be expected of them on that board committee concerning the lines being drawn. Fair and balanced, it's not. We've been very clear from the beginning of our intent to delay. We are not against rezoning by any means. However, under the circumstances, since this rezone does not accompany the opening of a new school, we are not at record capacity numbers, and there is a large number of falsified addresses that need verifying. We don't feel that asking for a delay at this point should be considered a burden. It simply gives everyone, most importantly this school district, time to consider best solutions. Time. We're just asking for time. As residents and taxpayers, we feel at the very least we are owed that. Superintendent Browning, you agreed in your interview on Channel 10 News recently that students shouldn't be going to a school they're not zoned for, that this is a problem. I agree with your view. In my opinion, unless you are attending by school choice, ESC, or the child of a teacher, there should be no tolerance for falsified addresses. How can you allow a rezone to happen before addressing this problem? If addresses are verified, numbers go down at overcapacity schools and go up at undercapacity schools. How do we verify these addresses? We know it takes manpower. We have a lot of parents. You've seen us. We've been present. We are your army. We are ready for any task that we are given to help the school board combat this problem. We've even offered to assist with the expense because it's that important. Please do not dismiss this issue. Please consider putting an end to the boundary committee meetings and postpone the rezone process for at least 1 year so that we can work together to find solutions. Please grant us the gift of time. We do not need to rush into a rezone, and that's what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great comments. And board members, Mr. Conley asked me to put a sheet on each of your bidders there, so you just have something to hand out.
Hi, I'm still Pat Conley. I still live at 5541 Southern View Drive, Silver Hills. Y'all know I'm a numbers and attention to detail kind of guy, and I'm here tonight because there's a problem with the numbers and the details in the proposed weighting of district DOCs as reported by Mr. Solacek this afternoon. The weighting of state FSAs has the same or worse problems, but your hands are tied on them. The state makes those rules. We do not need to blindly repeat the same problems just to conform with what they do. We can do better. I'll ignore issues that teachers have with the quality of district DOCs and just address the problems with the numbers and the details. I sent you all an email this afternoon, which you now have copies of, that outline the concerns, but I want to highlight them now since you might not have read the message. The scenarios I presented to you in the email are admittedly extreme, but that's how you test things. You look at the extremes and see if things still work or if they fall apart. And in this case, they fall apart. The details are in the email. It boils down to the fact that if we compare two students, one of whom has done demonstrably better in class than the other, and demonstrably better on the EOC, that student can still end up with a lesser grade for the year than a student who has done demonstrably worse. And that needs to be fixed. I don't really need to go over the details with it. I don't want to take up any more of your time. You have the email, you can look at the numbers. They're wrong. And we need to fix that before we move on with that plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Conley. Kristen Hilstrom.
Hi, I'm Kristen Hillstrom, 23340 Rolling Meadow Lane, Land O'Lakes, Florida 34639. I'm here to talk about teacher salaries. When I first started in Pasco, we had a competitive salary statewide, and we were mid-range in the U.S. We are now at the bottom, being the worst paid teachers in America. As if this isn't bad enough, we are now among the lowest paid teachers, not only in our immediate area, but in the entire state. I recently spoke to Hillsborough County Schools and found out from my 16 years experience, I would be making over $15,000 more a year. In addition, they're paying $2,000 to $3,000 for performance pay. That is over $1,000 more a month I would have to provide for my family. I literally had pain in my chest for a week after finding this out, knowing the difference it would have made in my life and for my family. As you know, it is not just Hillsborough, but all surrounding counties, paying approximately $10,000 more a year for teachers with experience. If you think a 3% raise is adequate, it tells me you are not in touch with how badly the teachers are suffering in this county. I've known teachers that I've worked with here for 10 years. They are leaving the state, they are leaving the county, they're going to Hillsborough and Pinellas. I have never seen so many first-year teachers as I have this year at our school. You do have the power to change our salaries. There are no more excuses. When every other school board and superintendent in our state has found a way to pay teachers significantly more to improve their lives, it is a slap in the face after my 16 years of service to put me in a position where I have to leave the county to provide for my family and start over. I was looking at this Families First family guide to Pasco County schools. You're not putting teachers' families first. And I'm gonna end this with, I'm really lucky you had coffee in your break room, because frankly, I didn't have the money to buy a cup of coffee on the way over here. And that is the reality of teachers. We don't get paid till Friday. After we pay our bills, we don't have much left to live on. And you know, that is a real reality. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Heidi Watson.
Hi, I'm Heidi Johnson. I live at 3205 O'Hara Drive, Newport Richey, and I would like to commend you for looking at and considering the Cambridge program for both Ann Clark and Paul R. Smith. I think that's amazing. I also believe that there might be some talks about a STEM magnet high school. I don't know which one you all are looking at yet, but I think that is fantastic. As we were talking about rezoning and filling capacity on schools that are under capacity, I think it's fantastic. I'm encouraged also to know that the school district is looking at other counties for reports that reflect what they're doing financially and in our neighboring counties. And I wanted to ask, I know you're not going to answer me right now, but I'm not sure if you're looking at the magnet process that Pinellas County uses. They actually survey the public to find out what programs would interest the public so that they can fill under capacity schools, which is quite encouraging on that part. Also, I really know that on the heels of this teacher giving her testimony that our teachers need more money, and you know that they need more money, and I know that our district is in a world of hurt financially, and that we are facing shortfalls every single year, that when we look at the 10-year plan, that it is scary. It's scary. And I assure you that we understand the importance of raised impact fees. And I am not sure why we're waiting to approach our county commissioners to ask for a raise, other than we're waiting until after the election so that we can have a more favorable outcome. But I know that to state that I have seen Ron Oakley's statement saying he will not raise impact fees, I find that really distressing for our public, because we're looking at our schools and we don't have any money. And you know, I'm just stating the obvious, but it's nice to hear it from this side of the podium, I'm sure, that we understand that. We understand that the PICO dollars aren't there. We understand that the millage needs to be restored, that they've taken something from us that they haven't given back, that the impact fees need to be raised, and that penny for Pasco is not going to carry this county and our schools. But you have a army, a world of people back here that if we are given direction, and we've also been in, you know, I've been in conversations with Mr. Gadd, that we can mobilize our public and put pressure where pressure needs to be put so that we can ensure that we have the money for our future. Because looking 10 years down the line, if we're $79 million in the hole on even trying to improve our schools, much less build new schools, I don't, you know, I know that I don't envy your position, but I just want you to know that we are here and that we can help. And I don't believe that a rezone is a revenue generating activity, but what would it cost us to just postpone it for a year and mobilize our army?
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
I'm Stacy Letts, 6522 Alchester Drive. I stand here today a very disappointed constituent of the Pasco County School District. I was at the last meeting where many people spoke asking not to do away with the rezoning, but to delay it so that all alternatives could be evaluated. Viable ideas were presented and more than 3,000 people signed a petition stating that they agreed we needed more time so that we could work together with you to solve the problems. You sat there and seemed to ignore all of it. I was disappointed at that point, but I was completely taken aback at what came after the meeting concluded. I stayed behind to hear some of the media interviews, and I listened when Kurt Brennan spoke to the news crew. As the leader of the Pasco County School District, Mr. Browning responded to a question about parent concerns of out-of-zone students and the need for an audit to correct the issue. Mr. Browning was quoted, "When students or families are dishonest and move into a district that they don't rightfully live in, they should not be going to school in those schools. But the key is how we find it. This district does not have the resources to go knocking on doors." What the news left out were 4 simple words that Mr. Browning said about investigating the fraud. It's just too hard. 4 very short words that were glossed over, but expressed the loudest truth about all issues regarding the rezoning situation. It's just too hard. These words speak volumes about the current state of the Pasco County School District and the apparent philosophy of our leaders. It's just too hard to put in the work. It's just too hard to fix the issues. Falsified residency is rampant in our district. Mr. Browning is right. Fixing this problem ingrained in our schools is going to be hard. But just because it is hard doesn't mean you ignore it. If you want an outcome to succeed, you put in the effort to fix the issues. When that is not done, initiatives fail. When you enact a rezone which will displace students from their schools while those committing fraud are allowed to stay because it's just too hard to correct, you are blatantly in the wrong. By not doing your due diligence in fixing this prior to any rezone, you are basically stating that you have put regulations into place that you cannot and don't see the need to enforce, thereby creating a situation where it is no longer really a regulation, but just a request that people provide accurate residency information. The message you are sending is that it is okay to lie. And that is exactly what will continue to happen after this rezone. You will not see numbers decrease and you will not see overcrowding corrected. What you will see are subsequent rezones as new home building continues with no future schools planned. To rezone without performing this crucial auditing step is nothing less than negligent and exacerbates an already out of control situation. The rezone as it stands is a Band-Aid on a bleeding artery and ultimately will fail. Let me conclude with another quote from Mr. Browning during his interview 2 weeks ago. He stated, "As for delaying the rezoning process, if the board chose to delay it a year, we're going to be back here a year from now doing the same thing." You have a multitude of citizens that want to help, coming to you with ideas for improvement in the school district. But the attitude of this leadership is that there couldn't possibly be anyone who knows better than you. So when we are back at this table next year for a subsequent rezone, it won't be because the ideas didn't work. It will be because the rezoning itself didn't work due to it being acted on prematurely without fixing the underlying problems and causes. It will be because it was just too hard for you to do the right thing.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Scott Sanford, 3639 Montclair Drive. Let me first start by saying I don't envy you folks. And I want to thank you, Superintendent Browning and Board, for hearing us out objectively to our concerns and our possible solutions. With that said, I'm here to tell you tonight that rezoning in this case is the wrong choice. Moving students to meet current capacity needs is an ineffective solution. Having attended the first rezoning meeting, let me applaud by saying I also handed out a map to you. It's actually a copy of your map with a illy scribed little dot on there that shows where the schools are. But after attending the meeting, you can see that most of the students that are being talked about actually being rezoned are the students that live right next to the schools. Furthermore, after moving those students into new schools, there was further discussion about taking the students that were in the current school and moving them to a different school. All of this will not solve your capacity needs and your desire to fill those schools. You asked that we bring you solutions. I would propose that we look at our current assets and determine what we need and what we don't need. We all know that West Pasco County is built out. Also in that stack of maps, there's a capacity chart. We could easily eliminate one of those schools in the West Pasco area, would fill your capacity. You could then take those resources, reallocate them to the area where we need growth. No matter what you do with moving these students, it is a temporary Band-Aid, just like everybody else has said. The growth is on the 54 corridor. You can't move enough people into West Pasco to solve that problem. As I stated, if you look at some of the schools, I looked at Ridgewood High School. On a per capita basis, based off of your budget, it's one of the most expensive schools to operate. The current graduation rate is only 63%. those students could easily be reabsorbed into the surrounding schools, which would fill your capacity. You could then take the $6 million that you're using to operate that school, turn around and move it out towards the West Pasco area, build a new school, and use that to help fund those issues. I realize, again, there's gonna be opposition to that plan, but what I would ask you folks to do is take a long, hard look at our problem and not put a Band-Aid on it, but try to find a long-term solution. And with that, I would like to ask for you to delay your rezoning, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Sherry?
Hey there, Sherry Paulus, 6787 Copperfield Drive, Trinity and Oak Ridge subdivision. I really don't have so much to say as I have questions to ask, if I may, so I'm not even sure what all the rules are, so you can help me out here a little bit.
Generally, they won't answer questions, but if you ask them, they'll be part of the record, and somebody will look into them and see what they can do with them. But this is really the time to make your comments, so please
That's fine.
rhetorically ask them.
You got it. My first question is was anything at all considered with the time and effort put into getting those 3,000 names on the petition? There's a reason we took the time to do that. It wasn't that we can't fit 3,000 people in this room, but we went out hours and hours and we got the names of the people who said, yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm in the same situation you are in. I would like to help with a delay. So my question would be were the 3,000 names even considered in a conversation once they were put on this desk last week? The next question would be why can't we get an answer, whether it's in writing or something, about address verification? It keeps being said up here over the last 3 board meetings that I have also attended, but there's just been no answers. And so my question to you is, again, are you guys elected? Because I guess I'm new to Pasco County, I suppose, but if you're in an elected position, then that puts you in a position to represent us. And I happen to be in District 3, Ms. Armstrong. And so my question to you is, in District 3, are you pushing for address verification? And I want to tell you that part of this group back here, we voluntarily get together to brainstorm solutions. About once every 2 to 3 weeks, we get together on how to brainstorm solutions. I would love to invite you to one of those meetings so you can hear our hearts. You can hear that we really are trying to help the situation and not just come up here and complain or whatever it is. I don't know what you guys really hear when we talk, but I'm asking questions of what does the address verification look like? How can it, so in some kind of writing, if you can't answer questions up here, in some kind of writing or an interview, can there be an explanation about this address verification? Because the reality is this, it won't stop. I mean, I really heard what a couple of the folks just said, and that is, if you're 400, I think, over capacity, let's say, with wrong addresses, why would that change? Why would that change? And so it's almost kind of, and this is not disrespectful, in a way, kind of comical to say, if we're 400 over capacity, let's say at Mitchell, when you do the rezoning, will you ultimately see any changes? Because will there be enough people trying to go through the address verification or falsification just to stay where they're invested in the community at? So those are just questions that I think we keep saying it, but I just want, is there an avenue to actually get the answers to address verification? If you actually represent District 3 of Mitchell High School, can you attend some of our meetings to come and represent the people who elected you? And was something ever done with those 3,000 names?
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have the copies of my speech.
Give them to Board Secretary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Basically today I'm just kind of reiterating some things that the rezoning.
Name and address for the record, please. That's a good starting
Oh,
point.
sorry,
Thanks.
Melissa Cook, 7052 Carmel Avenue, Newport Richey, Florida.
Thank you.
We are requesting another school year to properly vet our ideas. Considering the number of students the district desires to remove from J.W. Mitchell High School and Seven Springs Middle School, this rezone would be huge. This rezoning is unprecedented in that it's the first time a high school, middle school rezoning of this magnitude will have been proposed, not involving the opening of a new school. Between current and future students, the district has to rezone 1,400 or more students. The new GGG rezoning in East Pasco is having its own problems, and that community was given significantly more notice to deal with the rezoning process than West Pasco. West Pasco has only had a single boundary committee meeting and is expected to complete the process in less than 60 days. We began on October 5th and our parent meeting is on November 14th. That's just 27 days. East Pasco has known for years that they would be opening a new school in 2017 and began meeting on September 16th, and their parent meeting isn't until November 29th. It is our understanding that any rezoned school will be losing approximately 1 teacher per 25 students rezoned. There is no guarantee that these teachers will follow the students to the school to which they will be rezoned. Currently, there are permanent substitutes in the receiving schools, and class sizes are still way over 25 in core classes. We are not the burgeoning 2006 capacity. Do we all want to get there again? No. But with another school year to look into alternatives, we will still be okay. Dr. Dunning has said he can handle the additional students. The rezone does not help with reduction of class sizes because the teachers have to move when the students are relocated. Even schools with vacancy have crowded classes. The same is true of buses. Moving students to another school does not free up more buses for Mitchell. Parents who are concerned about overcrowding during the delay time may choose to exercise their option for school choice into another school. Wouldn't you love for the public to willingly contribute more tax funds to build new schools? Let us try to put a plan in place that creates a Mitchell taxing district through the use of a bond and CDD. Is it a tough road? Absolutely. Can it be done? Yes. Let us work on your behalf. Let us get you more funding. This plan to rezone has awakened the sleeping bear in our community. We now have a very vocal machine ready to work for you, not against you. We know in the past this school board has requested an increase in impact fees, and it was rejected by our county commissioners. Let us help you fight for higher impact fees so there is more money for schools. We've already opened the dialogue with our county commissioners. They are listening and responding. By making Enclote High School the first STEM magnet high school in Pasco County, it will draw talented students from Mitchell and River Ridge. We have other ideas for magnet schools. We are missing an arts program in Pasco County. There is no program like PCCA in Pinellas County or Blake High and Hillsborough. We deserve to have with our students a program that would allow for them to go for musical theater. I attended PCCA. I was born in Dunedin, grew up there, and I attended PCCA. It was an amazing school. I literally felt like I was at Fame every day. But we don't have anything like that we're offering these students. They deserve these opportunities as well. And this will draw the students from the overcapacity schools and make the room for the students that we need.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one more yellow card for anybody that has not had the chance to speak. All right, we will close this portion of the public comment period and go to the United School Employees of Pasco. Lynn, are you here this evening to represent them?
Good evening, I'm Lynn Cavell. I am a staff person at USEP. Kenny was unable to attend, as was any other staff person, because they're meeting with our bargaining team to discuss next steps. So we just thought we'd give them an opportunity to meet staff people, chair people that I hadn't met before, and that's all I have to say for this evening.
Thank you so much. Board members, it is time for committee reports. We'll start with Mr. Lukart.
None at this time.
All right. Mrs. Armstrong?
All right, Health and Wellness Incentive meeting, very important meeting where we got the statistics on how our strategic plan was working so far this year. And basically, we're not where we want to be, obviously, but we are seeing some really good things. One thing that was very encouraging was the Care Here patients have lower cost and better compliance when it comes to doing things that they need to do to improve their health, such as blood tests and so on, and taking the correct medications. So that is very encouraging. We also have more people using the Care Here Center. So that was one of the best things that we got. We did have someone from MedVision that tracks all this stuff for us, commending us on keeping our health care costs down percentage-wise compared to all the other counties that have seen a much larger increase in their insurance costs. So they're saying we're doing something right. There's always room for improvement, but we're working in the right direction.
Mrs. Crummett?
I had no committee meetings.
Mr. Altman?
We had a rather large and extensive what we call the large cap committee, which we went over today, the capital plan, and talked about that. The board had a workshop on that today. And I think most everybody in this room is well familiar with the situation that we're in, and the staff has worked diligently to try to refine that list of projects to maintain our current facilities and to see what we could afford to do going forward. And that was presented to the board today at a workshop. Had insurance committee meeting was canceled because of hurricane and rescheduled. And then we had our community assessment meeting over in my district. This one was at Pasco Elementary School and involved multiple stakeholders, community leaders and business leaders talking about what we can do to increase involvement and assist those schools with the tremendous number of at-risk kids that they have. So those meetings are ongoing and being very well attended.
Thank you, sir. My charter school task force will be meeting this Thursday, correct, Mr. Youngman?
Correct.
All right. Superintendent Browning.
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Mr. Gadd.
First of all, I'd like to introduce Jeff Youngman. He has a couple of people he'd like to introduce to the board.
So we have two representatives from Pasco Micro School here, the application that was submitted to the district. We have Joy Baldry, who's Executive Director for the Education Service Provider. Okay, and we have Danita Smith, who is our Secretary to the Board of Directors.
Thank you so much.
I'd also like to let the board members know that last night Joanne Hurley and Spencer Pilot accompanied me to Pasco Hernando State College. We presented before their board a concept about a joint venture to build a performing arts school out on the GGG property. It was a great discussion. We had a lot of interest. And I know that several of their board members over the next few days are going to be visiting that site. So I'm optimistic that in the very near future, fingers crossed, that we'll be able to bring some kind of memorandum of understanding between us and Pasco Hernando State College to develop a performing arts school out on that campus.
Anything else, Mr. Gadd?
Good.
Mr. Shipley?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Mrs. Coon?
Good evening. I have two things I wanted to bring to your attention this evening. First, we have a resolution tonight for place for the Lights On After School program that is this Thursday at 5A High School. It's a really exciting event to celebrate our pledge program and everything that we do for our community. And then I'd also like to invite Mr. Mike Booty and Mr. Tad Pleasant to come up and talk to you about some agenda items for the CNG station and Transportation South. So please come up to the podium.
Mike, are you going to start us off?
I am, thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Hurley, board members, Superintendent Browning, Attorney Alfonso. We are here tonight we have two contracts before you tonight, both associated with Transportation South Complex. That complex is on Interlaken Road between Community Drive and Gun Highway, just south of County Road 54. It's near Odessa Elementary School. The first part of that is a new bus maintenance compound, and it's going to be built by Marmer Construction. They're from Sebring. They were not able to join us here tonight, so there's not a representative here for that company. This will be their first project with us, and Mr. Wool did mention that he is anxious to try to get more projects here. So it'll be interesting to work with them on a first-time project. That project includes 5 maintenance bays, 2 vehicle lifts, office areas for shop personnel and transportation personnel, driver's lounge, 121 bus parking spaces, 145 vehicle parking spaces. The building will be equipped with special construction of electrical and ventilation systems, to manage the compressed natural gas requirements. If you look at the monitor, that's the part on the right, the bus maintenance compound with the associated parking. The second part of the project is a compressed natural gas fueling station. That contract is a design-build contract with A.D. Morgan Corporation, and they are here with us tonight. John Callip is vice president, he's there in the back, and George Goodspeed is their pre-construction manager, he's also here. They have partnered with Integral Energy, who is our expert consultant for compressed natural gas, and Andrew Frazier is back there. He's the managing partner for Integral Energy. Andric's been around this district for several years in different capacities and has been a consultant for us on compressed natural gas. The gas supplier for that project will be Clearwater Natural Gas. That consists of two CNG pumps with dual nozzles, so there'll be 4 dispensing areas there, and all the associated equipment that goes with that. And that complex will also have diesel and gas pumps that are on that next to that fueling station. Construction is scheduled to begin in October with completion in May of 2017. So I'm going to let Tad talk about the fueling and the bus part of that.
Good evening. Really just kind of pick up where Mr. Goody left off with this idea of integrating alternate fuels with transportation and kind of looking back historically with where we've come on the timeline there from the school year 14-15, where we first purchased 13 propane buses and 2 diesel lift buses. Those are equipped buses for some of our special needs students. In 15-16, we purchased 33 propane buses. Again, a couple of those special needs buses were purchased as well. And then in 16-17, here most recently, we are looking toward the purchase of those 30 CNG buses to arrive in timing with this facility that's being put up. As we look to the future, we'll continue to look at bringing in those CNG buses and those needed diesel buses to augment the particular needs that we have. As the superintendent mentioned previously, the district is committed to 10 years, 35 buses a year to help us meet some of those concerns with an aging fleet and keeping our students in the best possible buses that we can provide them to safely transport them to school and school-related activities. So a couple of quick items of point advantages to using alternative fuels. Obviously, one of the unknown things that we kind of discovered was this amazing reduced noise. If you've been in and around buses, they can certainly be noisy, and this was a complete departure from what we're used to. So buses are much quieter. This is great not only for the driver to hear what's happening around them in traffic, but it's also great because now nobody really has to yell on the bus to get anyone's attention. So it really kind of brings down that intensity level that can happen sometimes on the bus when we're talking. Cleaner emissions, obviously with alternative fuels, reduced particulate matter, all of these greenhouse gas related items. We've seen the EPA begin to take a stance on requirements on reducing greenhouse gases that didn't exist before. And so we're kind of getting ahead of what could eventually result in further restrictions. One of the other items here, lower contamination risk. As with wet fuels, we get into the possibility of a discharge into the ground. None of that exists with these alternative fuels. So it dissipates into the atmosphere, it either rises or falls and dissipates. One of the big things, as we talk about budget and what we're doing, is this less price volatility. We are less subject to these 3 pieces here, or 2 pieces there. We're less subject to some of those oil-related spikes that we see on gasoline and diesel. A lot more stable. It's a secure domestic fuel. The United States has got a great vast resource of compressed natural gas and propane as it's associated with general fuel production. The biggest thing for me is I like to say all of this is unremarkable because it's still a school bus and it still does what every one of our other school buses do without compromise. So it gets kids to and from school safely and all those activities in a much better manner. Now there are some incentives that are out there for us currently. One of them has to do with vehicle rebates. So there is some cost or some monies returned to us through the state as part of that rebate program. And also currently there is an alternative fuel excise tax credit. Because we have our own fueling stations, we are able to get the neighborhood of 50 cents per gallon back from the Fed on this rebate. So just in that short period of time that we had the 13 propane buses in that 14-15 school year, it netted roughly $31,000 in rebates that came back from that fuel. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we're doing now with the station there with the compressed natural gas. And if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Board members, any questions?
Just one that we talked about at CAB meeting that I've forgotten that we should tell the board, but the $25,000 per bus that we're getting back right now is funded for how long?
Right, so under one of the vehicle rebate, it is a max incremental cost return, max of $25,000, up to $250,000 per entity for us per year. So
for how many years?
So right now if it's reallocated, if it's refunded or reappropriated, the monies are to continue that, then we will continue to apply for all of those vehicles that we receive.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Lifespan, aren't they gonna last longer than the old diesel gas?
It's certainly our hope that we're gonna, and we would fully expect to see based on anecdotally here, when we change oil to meet the engine manufacturers, I would have no problem putting that in my car. Because it's basically coming out as clean as oil appears to go in. So it is a much cleaner combustion engine. So in that regard, we would expect to see a longer lifespan. We are looking at that 12 to 15 year life cycle on the motors. The real question is, does that bus hold up for the 12 to 15 years? Because the kids aren't going to change, although our fuel does.
I know when we went to Tallahassee and looked at that was one of the things they were looking at was the longevity of the bus.
Right. A lot of those maintenance pieces get into and suggest that we should see some maintenance savings and extended life on that motor.
Mrs. Armstrong?
Yes, it's my understanding that the CNG refueling station that will be open to the public as another source of revenue.
Right, so when we began this process, there were a number of angles that were looked at. One of them was the discussion of possible third-party participation. And through the course of permitting and whatnot, a lot of this is scaled back to us being the sole user, right, of this compressed natural gas station. We're in conversations with the county, Pasco County proper, to kind of see if where their interest lies. We'll continue to have discussions with them, but as of this point, it's solely our facility for our purpose.
I would like to add to that, though. Pasco County has requested that we help maintain a pilot program. They intend to buy a couple of CNG buses, and they want to contract with us to maintain those buses and fuel those buses at that facility. And we are optimistic that possibly somewhere down the road that facility might be used for broader purposes. Additionally, I want to point out to you that the last time we spoke to you about CNG, you may remember an organization named No Petro was involved. We may be, I'm not certain, but we may be the only school district in the state of Florida that will not only be building a CNG station, but will be managing and running it ourselves. That was the difference. No Petro was going to finance it and essentially make money off of us, and in return we would make a little bit of money. But in this scenario, we will see all of the savings as opposed to another party who is managing the CNG filling station.
Thank you, Mr. Gadd. Any other questions? Thank you, Chad. Mrs. Coote, did you have anything else?
No, thank you.
Mrs. Poe?
Nothing this evening.
Mrs. Swinson? All right. Mr. Klopp?
Real quick, just two things. Yesterday, I had the honor of participating in a poverty workshop that was sponsored through our OTL, our Office of Teaching and Learning, as well as through our Title I, which included the morning session with teachers, talking with Dr. Donna Beagle, who is an expert in generational poverty and how it impacts our schools, impacts our classrooms. And so in the afternoon, there was a number of leaders who attended that workshop, and we're really hoping, as we've been talking with Brian Schultz and others, of continuing that study for our district because of the impact that it has on so many of our schools and what's happening in our classrooms. And my hope is that as we get more information on that, we'll share it with you all, and perhaps that could be something that you could be a part of as well. The second thing is tonight, last board meeting, it was during the day, so we didn't get to introduce a few people that you approved and appointed. And so I'd like to ask for Ginger Marcel, if you would stand, Ginger, where are you back there? All the way in the back. Ginger came to our district after a couple of years in Pinellas, has been in our district for about 13 years. She worked as an elementary teacher, and then she moved into what we used to have, our student achievement coaches for ESE. And now she's been at Toulouse Elementary as an instructional trainer coach in mathematics. And I'm happy to announce, thanks to your approval, that for the Northwest region, we have our regional teams that support our school, and we have moved our math into 2 areas, an elementary and secondary. And Ginger is going to be supporting some of our neediest schools in elementary mathematics. So I just wanted to introduce her to you tonight.
Thank you, Ginger.
And she is not with anyone tonight.
Mrs. Berryhill.
I too would like to recommend a person for promotion, Tammy Satula. It has been a teacher at Sunbury Elementary School for the last 12 years. And this past year, she is a learning design coach there. And she is on the agenda tonight to be recommended to the assistant principal role at Deer Park Elementary School. And Tammy is here with her friend Danny.
Please stand. Please stand. Dr. Stankus.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a note, and then I do want to introduce somebody as well. But Land Lakes High School, there's a student there, a 9th grade student named Logan Betty. And Logan is a IB student who will be going to the White House on October 21st to represent Kids Science Advisors. So they'll be working with President Obama's staff. He got there by writing an essay talking about the future of STEAM. So that's a pretty amazing journey that young man's going to get to go on. So I'll be interested to see what he says when he comes back. The last time you approved Megan Hermanson to take the principalship at Lake Myrtle Elementary, and she's here tonight with family, so Megan will stand. Megan comes with a lot of experience in terms of her assistant principalships at Hudson Elementary, Oakstead Elementary, and then Deer Park. But we're recommending her, and you have agreed that basically she would take the principalship at Lake Myrtle. I was out there with her today. She's done a marvelous job, really, of transitioning in the middle of a really busy season. So we're happy that she's there, and she's going to stay there a long time.
Megan, would you have your people that are here supporting you? Would they please stand?
So with Megan is their husband, Eric, and we also have Jillian and Laurel.
Welcome to all of you. Board members, we have no expulsion recommendations this evening, so it's now time to adopt the consent agenda. Is there any board member that wishes to have an item removed from the consent agenda? No? If not, could I have a motion to approve?
I move approval of the consent agenda and all attachments on the desk.
All right, and a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Altman, seconded by Mrs. Crumley. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The consent agenda has been approved. We have some items on the action agenda this evening in the form of resolutions. The first one is I'd like you to approve is a proclamation for Red Ribbon Week. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Altman, seconded by Mrs. Armstrong. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That proclamation has been approved. The next one is a resolution supporting National Lights On After School, and that's the event that's coming up on Thursday. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Crumley, seconded by Mrs. Armstrong. Please, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The resolution has been approved. We have no property acquisitions and we have no miscellaneous action items, so it's now time for individual board member reports.
Nothing at this time.
Okay, Mrs. Armstrong?
All right, I was the speaker at the Trinity Odessa Chamber of Commerce luncheon and spoke about several topics regarding the school board with items I thought would be of business interest. Attended the Ridgewood homecoming football game. Also At the West Pasco Board of Realtors luncheon, updated realtors about the rezoning and shared the letter from the superintendent. Also attended the PACE ribbon cutting for their new facility, and what a beautiful, inviting facility it is for the girls attending that school. And then also, just to say, in the light of the fact that I have always honored any direct request to meet with the constituent, I did meet with some parents in this past month regarding the rezoning.
Mrs. Conley?
And I'll agree, I did that as well, met with several parents,
Yeah, I think we all did.
And, I'm planning to go to the lights on after school. Or is anybody else going?
But every year I've been there, it's been wonderful, and the staff puts in an incredible amount of work into that, getting ready for that event. Mr. Altman?
Visited several schools, but in particular, superintendent and Mr. Gadd and Mr. Pilot and myself met with Representative Burgess at Woodland, one of our most overcrowded elementary schools, and had a discussion about state funding, and went through the capital budget that the board saw today, went through the enrollment and capacity numbers that Mr. Williams brought with him and did a presentation on. So we're working to educate those officials that represent us in Tallahassee to the situation that we're in, and we continue to provide information for that.
Thank you. Superintendent or staff members, any other comments?
No, ma'am.
All right, Attorney Alfonso.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I have 3 items to bring the board's attention. One really is to ask for just some guidance and consensus, but I'm hoping that this is a matter that shouldn't be very controversial. My office received a request for an addendum to the contract regarding the Hercules property in Zephyr Hills. We've reviewed it as to form and content, didn't have any significant issues with it. I wanted to bring that to the board for your general information. I hope to bring the actual hard copy of the proposed amendment for action to the board on November 1st. The gist of it is essentially this. The developer has been working with the city. There's a lot going on there, and there's a lot that needs to be done. They're asking for an extension of time because at least we're trying to resolve issues like the reciprocal easement agreements and things of that nature. They have requested that we extend the inspection period from November 4th, which is what it currently is, to January 3rd. They've also asked for at least some flexibility. The closing is presently by contract scheduled for, I think it's March 6th. They've asked for the potential for an extension to 30 days beyond that. Under the circumstances, they're willing to make additional hard deposits that are non-refundable in exchange for these, $5,000 for one, $20,000 if it goes beyond the initial closing date. It's not really about, it didn't appear to be as a way out, it's just something trying to resolve some of the issues that are presenting. To that end, we'll bring the matter to the board for the board consideration on the 1st. And any questions, of course, you can follow up with me individually. I wanted to give you an update on a case that was certainly more in the news than it is now. The appeal for the 3rd grade retention lawsuit, that matter is currently at the trial level in Leon County on a stay while there is an appeal on a legal issue concerning the venue where it's to be litigated. The district we've already filed a responsive brief. In point of fact, the Pasco, that ruling, at least the requested temporary relief of Pasco County, was determined by the trial court to be moot. So there's really no immediate issue that Pasco's affected by, but we are waiting for the court to just go through, decide where this appropriate venue should be, and then at that point, hopefully the matter will be clarified through subsequent either appellate decision or trial court decision. And lastly, I just want to bring the board's attention, it's always come around time for my contract renewal. We are in the 3rd year of my 3-year rolling contract, or my 3-year term contract. So I have at least submitted to the superintendent some thoughts for a draft. I plan to meet with him in the next few weeks. But either way, we've discussed that we'd like to bring a proposed contract for the board to consider no later than the November 15th board meeting. So as soon as that draft evolves a little bit more, I'll be happy to send it to board members for your advanced consideration, so you at least have a chance to look at it and ask any questions. And Madam Chair, that's all I have. The only other things I hesitate to say this, but I know we had a lot of board public comment. I just, on behalf of the board, I want to tell a lot of parents who come here, I don't know whether you appreciate it or not, but the board does listen when you make these comments. Suggestions that are made are appreciated. That information is in fact disseminated, it's considered. There is a process that's at work. And the process is the same process that has pretty much always been used, which is there's committee-based or community-based first rounds that staff formulates plans, tries to disseminate information, gather information. It comes before the board for action at a point in time, at which time there's a public hearing, and the board has to consider that public hearing, consider all of the implications of everything, and take action, which may be to accept the recommendation, reject it, or table it, do something else, whatever the board feels compelled to do. So I bring that to everyone's attention because when you come and ask questions, you know, this isn't designed. This process is not designed for the board to sit and answer everyone's questions. It's public input. So public input is for everyone to express their concerns, let the board digest it, think about it, and then act accordingly. So be patient. There's a process at work.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I do not have any other yellow cards, so Mr. Altman,
I move we adjourn.
we are adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank you.